So data structures would be very important for this particular course because you will have to implement the algorithms as part of the practical requirement. And your C language or Python language or Java language. No, and we are as such we are not restricting ourselves for the languages. So when you are implementing your programs, in practical part, you have to have the understanding of data structures and C programming and other stuff. So make sure that if you are not aware of Python, I think it's very high time that you should be aware of Python now. And because down the line it would be useful for machine learning and other courses also, because a lot of libraries are available readily, and you can use those stuff for your benefit, right? So while implementing the other courses, like networks also, a lot of things are readily available in the Python language. So it's very high time that you understand what is basics of Python, and then depending upon your requirement, you can switch your gears so that you become comfortable with the understanding of Python and other stuff. Right. The base is C language. If you are comfortable with C and data structures, I don't see any problem with the placement part, because most of the companies they would be expecting the fundamentals of C programming as well as the data structures and the logic behind it. So it's very important that if you are falling short of the logic development and other things, you should switch your gears and make sure that you implement most of the stuff in such languages where logic development is there, right? So these are the expectations. I'm just giving you the idea that what the industry is expecting. And when it comes to the core courses, operating system basically becomes the core. Your system software becomes the core. Your compiler design and other courses. I don't know whether you are having compiler design or not, but ICT as such, in my understanding, would not be having compiler design. But the theory of automata, your data structures, your C, your database management, these are the core courses which will be in the baseline, right? When you appear for the GATE and other courses, the lot of questions you will see, that will be coming from the operating system course. So you should be in a position to address those type of questions. And this particular course, which I'm going to deal with, is going to address most of the GATE related contents. So you will be very in a comfortable position when you go for your higher studies, or maybe the conceptual part of the course is concerned, as far as the conceptual part of the course is concerned. So that would be a good thing to understand. And this is a wonderful course, let me tell you. And the way in which this course would be taught to you, you will be really happy to have the concepts of in detail. Right, so least bother about the course. You will be very happy to see what's going on in the operating systems and other courses, right? So oops, what happened is I think I closed it, right? So see, let me tell you, this is the screen shared? I mean, are you able to see the shared screen?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, are you able to see the shared screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see? Please, anyone reply.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Visible.
sir. Yes, sir.
Visible.
Visible.
Yeah, something went wrong. So that's why no. So this is the course handout which is already uploaded in the MS Teams. Right, you can go into the files and you'll see this particular document. This is the course file which will be following by and large, right? And to make you understand about in the first session, there is a mandate that we'll need to discuss about all this basic stuffs, right? So this department vision and mission is there, which is mentioned in the. Are you able to hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, okay. So this is the vision and mission documents, and we are having the program educational objectives to be fulfilled as part of the requirement of the course. So this educational outcomes are there, like preparing the professional. Let me zoom it if possible. Okay. So these are the educational objectives which are mentioned as per the ICT mandate, right? I am a faculty of computer engineering, so maybe our things would be different compared to what ICT has mentioned, right? So we prepare the professionals for the industry, research organizations and academia in the field of computer science and engineering. Yes, in the field of computer science and engineering, communications and signal processing and electronic systems, right? And imparting knowledge and the technical skills to graduate for contributions to the design and development of computer science and engineering, communications and signal processing and electronic systems. And the ethics becomes very important, and the lifelong learning is also important, right? So those things remains as part of the educational objectives. And there are outcomes which are there, program outcomes. So first is your engineering knowledge, second is problem analysis, design and development of solutions, uh, conduct investigations of complex problems, modern tools, engineering and society, uh, environmental and sustainability, ethics. And these are the mandates which are there as per the AICTE, which we are supposed to follow in by and large, right? So these are some of the, again, program specific outcomes which are mentioned. So don't get afraid of all these things, but no, there is a clear cut outline which we are supposed to follow, and we are following it to make sure that the things are in the shape. So as far as the academic calendar is concerned, your academic starts from today, right? In the first session, maybe we will not go into those detail, that much detail. We will, however, we will start into it, right? But then let us discuss about what are the things which are going to be there in front of you, right? So there will be two feedback sessions. There will be two examinations, I would not say internal assessment, but it would be named as a continuous evaluation. There will be two continuous evaluation, 30 marks each, and your end semester examination would be of 40 marks, right? So that's how this is going to be shaped, and this academic calendar is already mentioned in the course file. So we will be strictly following this calendar, and it is likely that in the days of examination, that internal continuous evaluation examination, you will be having 2 exams per day, right? You will be having 2 exams per day, and that's how it is planned. And shortly you will be receiving the appropriate calendars for the same, that on which date the examinations would be scheduled, and so on, right? So that's how it's going to be there. After the theory sessions are finished, the entire course is finished, there will be some examinations wherein practical also would be there. Practical as such would be taken up for this course by another ma'am. So that will be engaged in the evening class, maybe 2 to 3, yes, today 2 to 3 there will be some practical session which will be started. Okay, so I am basically going to engage you with the theory classes of operating system. Okay, the course code for this is, I think, the course code is 20IC 301T, and the name of the course is operating system, right? So this is how we are going to be there in front of you, and this is your class timetable which you are anyway going to have. See, as part of this course, there are certain outcomes which are going to be there, and at the end of the course, you will be able to apply the concepts of process management for the improvement of system performance. You'll be able to understand and solve synchronization problems. You'll be able to assess about minimization of turnaround time, waiting time, response time, and also maximization of throughput by keeping CPU as busy as possible, and analyze important parameters for memory management to handle memory optimally, and even judge the efficacy of page replacement algorithm. And along with that, finally the CO6 is saying that design and create new techniques for process synchronization and memory management systems, right, as well as the file management system. So by and large, your syllabus, if you see, is divided into certain units, right? And those units basically fall into the category of process management, synchronization, then your deadlock, and memory and file management. So any of this, these are the major sections wherein most of your course would be falling, right? And each of them are very much important because they are going to be part of the operating system's design. So design of operating system is another thing, and understanding the operating system course by and large is another thing, right? So we would be focusing upon the concepts which are basically touching upon this units, and which are in general. So these concepts would be applied to any of the operating systems whatever are available. So whether it is a Microsoft operating system, or whether it is a Linux operating system, or maybe it is an Apple operating system. So depending upon the algorithmic development and the design of the operating system, so certain things may change, but by and large, this remains as the base, right? Somewhere some optimizations techniques would have been applied by the different OS designers to improve upon their performance, but yes, this remains as the base, right? So there will be an end semester examination which will not be of 100 marks but of 40 marks in this case, but this is the syllabus which is already drafted, so that is how it is mentioning it is 100 marks and 3 hours. Okay, so this as far as the textbook is concerned, by and large we would be following the textbook of Abraham Silbert's Schatz, right? And or maybe it is well-known book which is also referred to it as Peter Gelvin. So sometimes Peter Gelvin's book is the name by which this particular book is referred to, right? Maybe 9th edition Wiley publication and 2016 India edition. So that would be the book which I think will become the base for this course. And rest of the books are also available, which maybe some other material, for some other material we will be referring to. Okay, so as far as the Sumitaba Das is concerned, this book might have been referred by you. This book might have been referred by you for your shell scripting part, right? I will take you through the shell scripting also in one of the sessions when we jump into the content of the operating system. So by that you'll be able to do the shell scripting part, and which in turn will also be useful to you for your laboratory purposes also, right? Your William Stalling book is also a standard book. Andrew Tannenbaum is also a standard book, but Peter Gelvin book is the book which is followed by IITs. So we'll be following that book also. And as far as the prerequisite of the course is concerned, there are prerequisites for this course, which is C programming and data structures. Additionally, if you are knowing some other languages, that will be really a boost to this course. This is by and large the lesson plan, wherein this will be periodically updated depending upon the way in which we carry out this course, right? So almost all the topics which are of relevance to us, those things would be definitely covered here. Somewhere some books may be looking into some maybe throwing some light onto some theoretical stuff also in detail, but yes, we will try to see as many things which are possible in the form of numericals, right? So that the understanding also would be there, and you will be in a position to solve the problems also at real time, right? So those type of stuffs would be the interest to us when we cover the entire course, right? So there will be a lot of things which will be there. Maybe the planning would be of some other some more course number of hours, but yes, we will try to make sure that your things which are of real interest to us should be covered, right? So this, I think this textbook and references are incorrectly mentioned, so I will modify this. This is related to the RF course. Maybe I will change this. Anyway, textbooks and reference books are already mentioned at the top level, so you can ignore this part. I will modify this in the course file and re-upload it. As far as the articulation metrics is concerned, all the POs and program outcomes which are as a mandate, whether it is ethics or whether it is lifelong learning or whether it is engineering and society and other things, this PO12, PO1 to PO12 were mentioned at the top level, and program specific outcome is also mentioned at the top level, right? So based upon that, where this course outcome will fall, this is the mapping of each of these course objectives, and that's how we are supposed to map it as at the end of the course. So depending upon your performance, this values will be calculated, and we are supposed to maintain it as per our records, for our records. So this is again the same thing which is mentioned earlier, the evaluation scheme and rubrics. So see, there would be some 10 marks MCQ which will be there, and 20 marks questions which will be there, which will again focus upon the CO mappings for the course, right? So your question paper, if you see, there will be some COs mentioned in the right hand side for every questions, right? So that is basically the mapping which would be required to be followed and to be done, and we will follow that practice in this particular course, right? So problem solving and other things also would be there, and the end semester examination would be of 40 marks, which is mentioned. So 10 to 20 would be your this is 10 and 20 your first evaluation, your 10 and 20 again for 30 marks for this one, and 40 marks for end sem. So in that way, this semester breakup would be there. Okay, so as per the guidelines which are given to us, we are supposed to follow this in this particular semester. So as far as the tutorials and the other things are concerned, see, most of the things in this course would be in the hybrid way, in which I will be going to take you through. So that will be your board work also, and along with that your PPTs also. So a lot of contents are available with me. I'm taking this course for a couple of times, and since inception of CSE and ICT, this course is taught by me, so there is absolutely no issues. Lot of materials and video recordings would be available with you. I request all the students to make sure that you download the recording and preserve it, so that it would be useful to you when the examinations are nearby. And as far as the lab is concerned, normally what we follow is last time we asked the students to develop an app which is going to have the virtual laboratory for this course. And the last year students have done, of computer engineering particularly, have done excellently well. And certain things have been also uploaded on the GitHub also. So we are expecting some good quality work in the laboratory as well. Right. So apart from the theory, a lot of things needs to be implemented by you. And once you are through with this course, you'll be able to learn a lot of things in this particular course, and this becomes the base. Actually, this course becomes the base for a couple of other algorithms to follow in the higher up semesters, right? So these are some of the sample papers again, which I'm taking in the computer engineering department, right? And these are the sample exact question papers which last year we floated, right? So there will be some numericals and lot of numericals as such to be undergone, and based upon the obviously I will cover everything in the classroom, and you will have to be very attentive while attending those classes, and make sure that the recordings of all these sessions are maintained by you, so that it becomes easy for you when the examinations are near. So these are again some of the papers, sample papers, which may be useful to you. All right, so that is all uploaded on the website. Along with that, periodically this will be updated. Okay, so last semester, a lot of questions came into picture, which as a sample, is kept in front of you. All right. So that was all about the course. Along with that, there would be some more books which would be useful to us for taking this course ahead. One is the book by Vijay Mukhi, which is by BPB publication, and title is Unix C Odyssey. Title is Unix C Odyssey. I wish that this Peter Gelvin as well as this Vijay Mukhi book should be in your library, should be in your available with you throughout your life. So kindly procure these books. These are really good books, right? And Vijay Mukhi is covering a lot of concepts related to the system calls and the micro level programming in C, right? So whatever, if you are looking at the design perspective of the operating system, then Vijay Mukhi's book would be really useful to you, because all the codes whatever are given are nicely presented with good explanation, and those things may not be available in the book by Peter Gelvin. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So topics related to the threading part also would be required to be undergone. So normally what happens is this threading concepts and other things it is basically covered in the course of parallel computing or parallel programming, right? But we will try to see that the POSIX library which is available in C, if we can explore those things also, and we will try to cover those things also. So thread programming can also be useful to you. Along with that, your process management, process programming, also would be covered. And this book can be a base book. I mean, it will be a benchmarking tool or book, wherein you will find a lot of codes readily available, and you can understand the concepts very well. Along with that, NPTEL material plays very important role. So a lot of NPTEL material is also available online. You can always refer to those material and and enhance your skill set. Okay, so this was all about the syllabuses and the things which we are going to follow down the line. Understand this, there will be two continuous evaluation and one end sem evaluation, which is already mentioned in this, right? And we will be following the timetable which is as per the academic calendar. Okay, so that was all about the basics, which I think you should be able to understand in the first lecture itself, and that's how it is covered. So there will be two sessions, one on Monday and another on Wednesday, 9 to 10. Okay, so please make sure that when the morning session is there, you should be available before time. Otherwise, we should not. Otherwise, our time will be wasted. So we have only two sessions to cover the entire course. If it would have been three courses, I would have been more happy. But no, as per the mandate and the syllabus designed by ICT, we are supposed to make sure that only two classes are available, and within that only we would be conducting the sessions. However, if required. However, I'm telling you, if required, there could be some extra sessions also. So if you are having some problems or things to be solved, there is there is a 1 hour which is already dedicated to that. Let me see if I've mentioned it here. So that is Tuesday 2 to 3. I hope Tuesday 2 to 3 there is no class, right? Tuesday 2 to 3 p.m. there is no class. So this would be an office hour, and within which you can discuss your doubts and other things with me, or maybe see there are various options now. You can even put the things on the chat also, and we can even discuss it on the chat box also, right? So those things are available, and maybe gradually in the next class things will be covered up, and if possible I will be able to address those problems during this time window only, right? So both things are, I'm flexible from my side. There is no need to hesitate to call me. There is no issue at all. At any point of time I would be addressing all your problems. So don't worry about the timing and other things, even though it is restricted to 2 to 3 Tuesday, but you can always approach me for any of your doubts, right? So that was all about the course file, and now let me close this, and let me see. Uh, Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hello, are you there, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
okay, okay, good. So if you can turn on some of, let's say, Namra Shah. Namra Shah, can you turn on your video? Aditi Patel, Adit Patel. Can you turn on your video? So I will come to know whether you are listening to me or not. Jeet, yes. Hirva, you are available. I can see you. Can you give me some introduction of operating system? What do you mean by an operating system? In your own words. If you don't know, no problem. Hirva. Namra is having some network issue. That's okay. Hirva, can you unmute yourself and tell me what is an operating system in your words? Hirva, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have Wi-Fi issue, sir. Sorry, sir.
Please unmute
Operating system
yourself,
is a
Hirva.
hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, sir. Operating system is a system that
I
manage
think your
your
network is down,
software
or
and
maybe
hardware.
my network is down. I don't know. Yes, please.
So there is problem in my network.
Then you should speak out little faster. Now it is okay. I can hear you.
Okay. Operating system is the system which manage your software and hardware.
Yes. Anyone else who wants to address this? Hirva, that's okay. You can turn off your video because there would be some issues. Nirva, I will come to you little later, maybe in the next class. You can turn off your video.
Sir, I already turned off my video.
Okay,
Sir,
but
I
then okay.
have network issues.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, your voice is
Who is
also
that?
breaking.
Please introduce yourself.
Sir, this is Nidhay.
Yes. There is some network issue here also, I think. That's why no. Nidhay Pancholi, right?
Yes, sir.
Nidhay, can you tell me what is an operating system in your own words?
Okay, so basically operating system is the middleware between hardware and software. The user does not understand the machine codes and the hardware only understands the machine code. So to represent that to a user understandable format, we use an operating system.
Okay. I could not hear you because maybe some issues were there. But see, in my understanding, what I would like to say here is operating system basically is just like a resource manager, right? And along with that, no, what it does is no, it is also responsible for managing times. And when I say, I mean, managing time is basically when the process is brought in into the system for execution and other stuff, and when it was created, when it was finished, and that's how no the throughput and other things also will be created and managed by the system, right? So see, manages resources of the system. The operating system also manages the resources of the system. That's why no, it is known as the resource manager. Right now, when I say resources, then what resources are there in the computer system? Lagani Patel, what resources are there inside the computer system? Yes, what are the resources which are there inside the computer system? Can anyone tell me? Lagani Patel, if you can address this. What do you mean by resources? Lagani, Rishabh. This is alarming. Rishabh.
Yes, sir.
Rishabh Patel.
Yes, sir. Hello. Can you hear me?
What are the resources inside the computer system? And I know understand the operating system is supposed to manage those resources. So if you're not able to address this, let me tell you. See, CPU is one of the resource, right? What it does is basically it performs the execution of the user program, right? Rishabh, you unmuted yourself, right? So along with that, no, CPU would be doing what? CPU would be executing your program, which is and it has to bring it from the secondary memory to the main memory, right? And then after the execution can be continued. So a lot of things would be there. So memory is also a resource, right? So storing the data into main memory and managing the execution part, right? And along with that, no, the file system also has to be up to date. So all this stuff, no, basically belongs to the resources. And along with that, there could be some additional. Along with that, there could be some additional resources like peripheral devices like keyboard, mouse, and other type of stuff like printers and so on. So we need to manage those resources also, and the operating system is responsible for doing all this stuff, right? And so it will also require some modules through which no, it will be able to manage those resources, right? So managing the external resources also as well as the internal resources also will be part of the operating system, right? Along with the files, along with the memory, along with your CPU and other stuff, right? So if I say now if I say Arya Patel, what do you have you undergone any of the operating system as of now till now in your school days, Arya? Arya, yes, please.
Hello, sir.
Arya, In your school days, have you referred to any of the operating system, or have you used any of the operating system?
Yes, sir. Windows 7. Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, sir. Windows 7.
Windows 7, okay, fine. So there are various flavors of Windows, right? The answer to that would be like one of the operating system that you have referred is Windows. Okay. Second would be something like Linux or Unix sort of thing, right? And the third, if I say somewhere, no, if you are aware of Mac OS also, then in the initial days, so before all this stuff came into picture, right? And for the ease of efficiency and the ease of convenience, right? There was an operating system which was disk operating system, which we normally call it as DOS, right? So that was the first operating system which was coined up, and that was a single user operating system, right? So it was not permitting multiple users to log in and then access the resources and do your work, right? So that was the list of some of the operating systems. That was the list of some of the operating systems which I think you might be just aware of the names and other things, right? When we come to Unix operating system, see what happened was it was allowing us to have more than one person, right? So more than one person can use it simultaneously, this Unix operating system, and no, that was having the concept of multi-user. That's why the word coined up was multi-user operating system. And along with that, there was the concept of multi-programming also. Multi-programming, multitasking. Hello. Multi-programming and multitasking and other type of terminologies came into picture when the Unix operating system came into existence. So as far as the secondary storage is concerned, I just listed out certain operating systems which were either single user or multi-user. I just listed out certain operating systems which were either single user or multi-user, right? DOS is single user, Unix is multi-user operating system, right? As part of the resources are concerned, again, no, I told you about something about memory and other thing, right? So there is something like secondary storage inside the memory, inside the system, right? So what do we mean by secondary storage is, you know this, right? So just to save our time, so those things would be like hard disk drives, your floppy disk drives. Earlier floppy disk drives were there. Nowadays we don't see floppy disk drives. Instead USB has taken the control. So nowadays, no, we don't see the floppy disk drives. CD-ROMs were also there earlier. Magnetic tapes were also there. Like there, I mean, there could be many other some secondary storage devices which would be there, and characteristics of each of these devices would be different, right? So your operating system is supposed to make sure that no, each of these devices are compatible with the system, and they can make use of those storage devices, to make sure that the contents are brought from the secondary storage to the main memory. And from once it is there inside the main memory, then the CPU can fetch those instructions and execute it, right? So your program is supposed to get loaded. Your program, which is getting converted to a process, that is supposed to be loaded into the main memory, and from that main memory your CPU is going to fetch it into the cache, and from the cache your CPU will be again fetching the instructions to execute, right? So now the way in which the main memory is accessed and the way in which the secondary memory is accessed is different, right? So the CPU, when it is fetching the content from the main memory, it would be different, and the CPU, when it is fetching the content from the secondary memory, it would be different. But directly from the secondary storage it cannot execute. Right, so we cannot fetch the instructions from the secondary memory and directly submit it to the CPU for execution. So what happens is the content would be first of all brought into the main memory, then into the cache, and then into the CPU for execution. Right, so lot of things comes into picture. All these things are nothing but the resources, right? And along with that, I said IO devices are also there, like keyboard, video, printer, etc. Right, so a lot of things comes into picture, and all this management part, right? All this management part is basically the responsibility of operating system, right? So we'll look into all this stuff gradually over the course of time. As far as the operating system concepts, I mean this syllabus is concerned, no, your unit 1 would be chapter 1 to 3 from Galvin. You can note down chapter 1 to 3 from Galvin, unit 1. For unit 2, it will be chapter 5, 6, 7. For unit 3, it would be chapter 8 and 9. And for unit 4, it would be chapter 10, 11, and 12 from the book of Peter Galvin. Okay. And appropriately, the class test and the other things, assignments would be given to you. And that's how no things would be there in front of you. Okay. So coming back to the introduction of operating system, I told you it is an interface somewhere. No, it is an interface, right? It is an interface between user and hardware, right? User is expecting something to be given for execution, right? It is basically giving some commands, right? And this so user is giving certain commands to the system for execution, and appropriately the hardware is supposed to get executed for the same. So let's say in your no, I mean without operating system, if the system is supposed to execute your programs, then directly no, you are supposed to write the code into the hardware, right? And writing the code for the hardware directly is not that easy, right? You need to be specialized in writing the codes for the hardware. So what happens is no, the user, no, without operating system, no, user has to write lot of code. That's what I said. And even to execute a small function, let's say if printf is there, then printf internally is making use of what, right? So all these things you should know. Then and then you can write the entire code for the operating system or for the hardware to execute. So instead what happens is your operating system gives you some interface through which no, this printf or maybe will call internally some modules which are readily available inside the operating system, and will execute those modules. Those modules are called system call, right? So the concept of system call comes into picture. So there is a set of modules or set of system calls which are available with all the operating systems in one way or the other. And the programming interface will make sure that which appropriate system call is supposed to be called for this particular operating system. So in that way, the appropriate system call will be executed in the operating system for your execution. Right. So understand, if there are multiple programs, if there are multiple programs, so if there are multiple programs, and in every program you, in that case, what you will have to do is you will have to write your code, which will enable you to use the hardware, and then the commands needs to be provided to do the actual work, right? So all this stuff would be required. So if there are multiple programs and every program is supposed to be updated in this way, lot of hardware knowledge would be required. So using operating system, no, you need not to write the hardware enabling modules. So it does it for you using system calls. That's what I was telling you. And when many users wants to execute the functionality of hardware, no, users need not write the code in its program. Instead, OS will be including it as part of the system calls. So OS is keeping all the system calls with him. So operating system is keeping all the system calls with it, and no, user is just typing the name of those modules, and it will be able to execute those modules at the hardware level. So that is the flexibility which is now available with most of the operating systems once the Windows came into existence, right? Windows and Linux and other things came into existence. So there are various flavors of operating systems. Understand, Windows Vista, Windows, other flavors of it, Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 9, Windows something, right? So likewise, no, there are some other flavors also available on the Unix operating system. What are the flavors of Unix operating system? Can anyone tell me? Jeet, can you tell me what are the flavors of Unix operating system?
Sorry, sir, I couldn't get the question.
I think Jeet is not able to. Jeet, can
Hello,
you hear
sir?
me? Yeah, can you list out the names of some of the Unix based flavors of operating system? Some
like
names. Linux, Ubuntu.
So I'm not able to get the question actually. Your voice is lagging. little bit.
Flavors of Unix operating system. Flavors of Unix operating system. No idea. Flavors of Unix operating system.
Ubuntu, Kali Linux, that Linux, Ubuntu, and
Yes.
Kali Linux.
Yes, Kali Linux basically is a specialized Linux for ethical
Yes.
hacking and other purposes, right? So that you might be aware of. Okay, so you listed out certain like Ubuntu is there, then Fedora, then Anaconda Linux, Monkey Linux, Moo Linux, Me Linux, SUSE Linux, right? So lot of flavors are available in that category, which are all open source softwares, right? And Microsoft as such is the licensed software, so it's a proprietary software. So when we are using Microsoft as such, no, we would be requiring to take licenses, and then you can use it. Otherwise, no, there could be some possibility of impeachment and some misuse of the resources or maybe operating systems. So the point is that no, certain operating systems are free and certain operating systems are licensed, right? So wherein no licensing would be required. So see, in normally what happens is no, user has to focus. As when we come back to the context of users, no, user has to focus on its task only, right? And need not worry about how the things are implemented, right? And that's how no, this it works as an interface. So operating system is basically working as an interface. For what purpose? For doing the execution of the task which the users are submitting, and user is not supposed to worry about how the things are implemented. So that is the beauty of any of the operating systems which we normally see, right? So whether it is and again, no, when we talk of the operating systems which are available in the mobile devices, no, those are lightweight operating systems. We don't have much bulkier operating systems which we traditionally have in our desktops and laptops, right? Instead, on the mobile devices, those operating systems are lighter in weight, and certain functionalities are there, but certain for additional functionalities, no, we'll have to so in mobile operating systems, no, I mean it is lighter in weight and in the sense like lighter in modules which are capacity which are there, and along with that, no, as and when no the updates are available, no, we need to update it so that no it is up to the mark. So all that type of stuffs would be there. So what is normally an update is basically an optimization. So certain modules which are not integrated earlier and with some errors if it is there, no, those things are to be updated periodically in any of the operating system, whether it is a desktop based operating system or it is whether it is a mobile based operating system, right? So again, no, resources are supposed to be managed by the operating system, right? That is what we have seen, and it works as an interface between the user and hardware. Okay, so resources again, if I say what are the resources again, no, it could be something like CPU, it could be memory or devices or files and so on, right? And no, when there are many user or people sharing computers, understand, when there are many users or people sharing the computers, or maybe when we have many programs running simultaneously, no, we are supposed to allocate CPU to one of them and memory to some of them, printers to some of them. So this is called resource allocation, right? So your whatever the pool of resources are available with you, no, those resources are supposed to be scattered for the users for implementation, user tasks to be implemented, right? So certain may be given some CPU, certain may be given some memory, certain could be given with some printers and so on. So how do I allocate some resources to one of them, right? Sometimes what happens is, no, some resources are not shareable. In that case, no, what happens is what you should do is it will be allocated to one user for one task, and then you will have to take it back. Then you will have to take it back and then allocate it to the other one. So that is the scheduling which would be coming up into picture for the resources, that give it to one, take it back, and then allocate it to the other. So allocation of resources, allocation of resources also becomes very much important. So how to allocate and other things, no, that again comes up as part of the synchronization mechanism. So in the course, no, we will be looking into all those stuff. Sometimes, no, resources are shareable. So when the resources are not shareable, one after the other, you can allocate. But if the resources are shareable, in that case, you can allocate the resources simultaneously, right? And there will be some pooling which would be done internally, that to make sure that no, the user's tasks are finished, and in some round robin fashion or maybe some time shared manner, no, things will be managed by the system, right? So again, no, there will be some set of algorithms which will come up in as part of the scheduling part, right? So no, CPU could be used for some time for some process, then again, no, in the same time quantum could be given to some another process and so on. So in that way, process management also would be very important, and no, a lot of algorithms will be coming up as part of the understanding of the process management. So those algorithms, no, would be known as the scheduling algorithms. And obviously, you know, there is some states and other things which are there as part of the operating system, which will be seen. As part of the manager, no, it also is responsible for memory management, process management, file management, and security also, right? So it's like no, manager. When I say manager, then what is the responsibility of manager? It is basically doing the bookkeeping activity, right? So what is the resources which are allocated to which process? What are the free resources which are there? What is the current capacity of the resource? And how many people can I serve it further? And that's all. No, we call it as management of resources. So if I just recollect what I have said, now it's like bookkeeping activity. As a manager, now it is supposed to make sure that what are the resources which are available, what are free resources which are there, what is the capacity of the resource, and how many people can I serve it further, so that no, the system can continue. So all this stuff now comes under the category of management of resources, right? So memory can be managed. So how much is available, how much is allocated, how much is free. So individually, no, for memory also, no, it would be required, right? As far as the processes are concerned, I mean, for every program, no, there will be a process. Understand, when I say process, the program under execution is known as a process. When you are typing the code, and saving it as C file, that particular C file would be stored inside the secondary memory, right? When you compile it, at that point of time, it would be requiring to bring that particular program into the main memory along with the compiler. So compiler will also be inside the main memory, and your program will also be fetched into the main memory, and compilation would be done. Okay. So then, no, when you try to execute that particular program, once the exe file is ready, so that will be again stored into the hard disk. So when you execute this file, it is supposed to be brought inside into the main memory and then into the CPU, right? So process has to be managed. So there could be many processes which could be there inside the system. At any point of time, there would be multiple processes which they are trying to make use of these resources, right? So which process should be given a chance to execute and other things? No, that depends upon the scheduling algorithms of the processes. So when I talk of the files, now comes the files. So there are many files. So we need to see that file system remains consistent. At any point of time, your file system has to remain consistent, even when many processes are accessing the same file. So if it is possible that many processes are referring to the same file. Example of that, if I can share, there is something like etc password file in Unix, right? And etc password file is a shareable file with all the users who are trying to log in. And when the user logs in, that particular file will be opened, your password would be verified, and then that file would be closed. Okay. So that file is available as a shared resource in some cases, and when many processes wants to access that particular resources like file, then how to manage those things, whether the privileges are available with those processes or not. So at any point of time, what the objective is that data which is present, it should remain consistent, right? So anyway, an entire file system has to remain consistent. At any point of time, if the power failure happens, in that case, what is going to happen is your data structures, the linked list and other things which are your pointer may be pointing at some place, to fetch the contents, and if suddenly your power goes off, then from where it has to recover. So that's the concept of file. The consistency of the file system. So it has to have some backup also. It maintains the information of all such type of things, and so that when the power comes back, right, so it will restore from that place. It will be inside somewhere, some safe mode, something sort of thing, and it will recover the entire data structure so that the user programs can continue from the point where it has left. Okay, तो जहां से भी बिगड़ता है वहां से वो उसको ठीक करके आगे बढ़ जाता है, right? So that is how the file system consistency is supposed to be maintained. And the last category, the security, right? See, understand, security is important. Why? Because when many people are accessing the same resource, some person will be allocated some resource, the other person should not try to access those resources, right? When it is allocated to someone, the other processes should not interfere when that particular resource is in use. So even though the level of the processes are same, so there will be priority available with each of the processes. There could be some kernel level priority, there could be some user level priority given to a process. So that has to be maintained. So when the resources are given to someone for security purpose also, the system should make sure that some other person should not try to use those resources at that point of time. So what we saw was that there is something like process, there is something like memory, there is something like file, there is something like security. So all these concepts would be the responsibility of an operating system to be managed, right? So what are the now coming to the next point, what are the main goals of an operating system? One is resource management, obviously, right? So it is supposed to maintain up-to-date record, and along with that it has to keep the all the statistics of what is happening as of now, so that right, it has to keep the statistics of all the processes which are in the execution mode, how many processes are there available in the secondary memory, what is the space of secondary memory, and all such bookkeeping works, right? And what is the free space also available inside the main memory, and what is the free space available inside the secondary memory also. So when you try to do Control-C, Control-V, when you are trying to do Control-C, Control-V, it has to first check whether this particular process, Control-C, Control-V process, right, whether it could be executed. So it has to check the memory part and other things, right? And if the sufficient memory is not available, then it will inform you. So that becomes a responsibility of the operating system to alarm at the appropriate time to the user that this could not be finished, that this job could not be finished, or what was the status, that this much is finished, this much is not finished, and so on. So that is one thing. So that comes under the convenience. This comes under the category of the goals of the operating system, which is the primary goal, which is the convenience. So the primary goal of the operating system is to have the convenience to the user, and the secondary goal is to have the efficiency. Now, when I say this, if I talk about the DOS operating system, DOS, if you see, it was command driven, and DOS actually there is no convenience at all. In the disk operating system, DOS operating system, when it was initially developed, there is no convenience at all. Everything has to be remembered by the user, right? And if you talk of the Apple or any other operating system as of now, GUI based, there is conveniency which is there, right? So Windows, Linux, or Apple, if you see, there is a lot of convenience available for the users. However, the secondary goal is the efficiency. So in the when I talk of the efficiency, then it comes into the I should talk about the mainframes and supercomputers, right? So mainframe supercomputers, they need not go for the convenience. They are not looking into the convenience part. Instead, they are designed in such a way that it should give you the better efficiency, right? So because people who use those systems are considered to be experts in that case, right? So that's why the efficiency. That's why the efficiency is given the priority in certain mainframe and supercomputers, right? So main goal in mainframe and supercomputer is to achieve the efficiency and not the convenience. So OS basically is if I say, is mainly used by naive users, right, or on the personal computers, where mainly convenience is to be offered, right? So is to make it, our objective is to make it simple so that we can use it properly and easily. So that was the basic understanding of why we need the operating system, how the user's convenience could be there to the end users, and how, what are the various ways in which even efficiency could be improved and other things. So this particular course would be looking into all such details. As of now, we have not yet gone into the details of the core stuff, right? But as of now, we have just discussed what are the basic responsibilities of any of the operating systems. So in the next class onwards, right, we will be looking into the from the next class onwards, we'll be jumping into the details of different types of operating systems, and then the process management would be the first chapter that will be touching upon the unit 1 part. Okay, so just to summarize what we have seen today, and if anyone can summarize, Rishabh, can you summarize? Rishabh, can you summarize what we have seen today, or what was discussed today?
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Hello.
please.
Yeah, sir. We have seen resource management, how operating system manages its resources, input-output devices. Then we see how
Okay.
file management.
Memory part, your single user, multi-user part, right?
Yeah.
Or DOS
Yes.
is a single user.
Yes, sir.
DOS is a single user operating system, whereas Unix is multi-user operating
But
system.
yes.
And as part of the resources, a lot of things like secondary storage, your main memory, your
Memory.
IO devices, your CPU, all are supposed to be managed by the operating system,
Yes.
right? Right. So I mean, the environment in which this OS has to work, that's how we are supposed to discuss, and what are the responsibilities of operating system that we have already discussed, right? And it acts as an interface, that was also discussed, right? It acts as an interface between the user and hardware. So directly you don't have to write the code at the hardware level. Instead, there will be some layer which will be available in the form of a modules, like kernel modules, or maybe you can even say system calls through which your printf like codes could be executed easily. Otherwise, so आपको क्या होगा कि you'll have to write the code for the appropriate hardware, and if there are many programs, every program will have to be integrated with that hardware code, right? So that is again difficult, and more difficult. So all this to avoid all this stuff, the interface is designed wherein your programs could be simply glued with the help of system calls to execute the appropriate hardware for the same, right? In that way, things were discussed. Okay. Any questions from your side? Then after we'll wind up this session. Any questions? Any questions from your side? If there are no questions, I will end this session. Let me stop the recording.